Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, friends, and welcome into episode 92 of the Heat Press for Profit podcast, powered by Stalls here. Here in episode 92, we are chatting all things DTF today. So, we're going to talk about how you could find success regardless of if you're just getting started or you're running an established commercial print shop. Maybe you are screen printing. Maybe just getting started running your home business. We're going to talk about some tips and things to look for here with utilizing DTF transfers with your business and your print shop. So, of course, DTF, if you are brand new to the industry, stand for direct to film transfers. And now DTF has really, truly changed the game when we talk about heat transfers in its ability to do essentially MOQ1, right? It's able to do one minimum quantity with minimal setup. It is a digital printing process, but it allows you to not have to color count any graphics, be able to do any quantity with those stunning photographic results, right? We've seen some super fine detail. If you haven't seen the half toning video that we have over on our Transfer Express YouTube page, it's a super easy step-by-step guide on how to half tone DTF prints for essentially the fades, right? The only limitation is that you can't like fade to the garment like you can with direct to garment printing process. So with direct to film, you are kind of limited by some of that, but there's ways around it with artwork prep, which if we have time today, we'll jump into just a little bit. I do want to mention too that this is, if you're listening on any of your podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, be sure to give this a big thumbs up and leave us a review. We are always aiming to help decorators just like you succeed, regardless of how long you've been in the industry. It's really the innovation and education, dedication to decorators just like you succeeding is really why Stalls has been around for 90 plus years now, right? With heat applied products and apparel decoration. So we are definitely here to help support your business and help you grow. But we have so much to cover on direct to film today. So I'm going to jump right in. And right before we get started, I do want to mention that if you're joining us live, either on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you're tuning in from, I have all of the chats live here in the studio in real time. So I see Darren and Rian already chatting in and saying hi, hello, and everybody getting ready to learn here today. So I do want this. If you have any questions, right, I want to be able to answer your questions because this is focused on your success, right? So I'm going to take my experience here at Stalls and Transfer Express and utilizing direct-to-film transfers personally over the past 3-4 years now, as well as the real customers that I've been in their shops, I've talked with at Impressions Expos or Printing United or any of these trade shows around in the industry, and share some of their stories and success here too. So we have tons of shop visits over on our Stalls TV YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed over there, we were just at US Colorworks earlier this fall, and that episode just came out. And essentially, US Colorworks down in Charlotte, North Carolina is producing about 3,000 individual garments a day on demand, and direct to film plays a large role in that, right? Direct to film is great, right? Right off the top, let's talk about what's great about it. It can apply to almost any product or any fabric. So when we talk about adding limitless color decoration, right? Full color decorations on almost any material, direct to film is there for you. It's smooth, it's pliable, there's no clear outline, right? But there are some things that do kind of set you back when we talk about quality, right? So before we dive too deep into it, one thing I do want to talk about is success, right? The whole point of today is going to be rooted in your success, right? And how direct to film could help support that. So we're all different, right? Whether you are a commercial shop or maybe an at-home business that's been on a great trajectory, maybe you've hit a plateau, maybe you're just looking to make 2025 the best year yet, and I am here to support you in that, okay? But when we look at goals, I want you to look at what we're going to talk about here today through a few different lenses. And there's probably one or two that you as a decorator are really going to pick up on, right? So sales is our first goal. Everybody loves more revenue, right? But more revenue in some cases doesn't actually mean more profit. So when we talk about sales and revenue and increasing that, we want to ensure that we are maintaining our profit margins. And there's ways that we could do that, right? And this is going to be kind of rudimentary business school stuff, right? But ensuring you are profiting requires minimizing your overhead, minimizing your investments, minimizing your risk, right? There are certain instances, absolutely, that it's worth it to take a risk. And there's always the saying, no risk, no reward, right? Well, in heat applied products and apparel decorating, I've seen a lot of shops kind of dig themselves into a hole that then they struggle to dig themselves out of. They go get work that necessarily doesn't fit the mold of the work they're able to produce, right? And they're not set up for doing these certain types of jobs. And that takes then more time. So that at the end of the day, I've been there when I was a decorator 10, 15 years ago, right? Just printing t-shirts for bands. I would be like, wow, I did so many sales this month. I felt really good about it. But then at the end of the day, you go and look at your time, you go look at your balance sheets, and you didn't make anything. You're in the hole, right? And I want to prevent you from doing that. That's a mistake that I made. So when we talk about the goal of sales revenue, let's put a little asterisk with that and make sure that we have profit in mind as well. Now, another goal that I hear a lot of decorators talk about is doing more with the same, right? The same equipment they have or the same square footage. Real estate and utilities are more expensive, especially here in the United States, than almost ever before, right? At least in modern times. So when you go look to say, well, I need to go buy a storefront to be able to do direct to film, maybe you don't, right? And that's just going to be another added expense on top of it. But you also want to be maximizing your time. So efficiency becomes the secondary goal that we're going to keep in mind, right? So maybe profit and efficiency, boom, right there. Those are your top two. Now, another one that we could add in is the printing capabilities. Say you're screen printing and turning away minimal piece orders, right? Or outsourcing them to somebody so you can still say yes to your customer, maintain that relationship, but you're outsourcing then your profits, right? So being able to be a fully capable apparel decorator, essentially being able to do even personalization with ease without throwing a wrench in those gears, right? So, and then the last part is being able to diversify your markets, right? So being able to kind of put your eggs in multiple baskets. Eggs, of course, more expensive than ever before now, too, right? So a great analogy, but you want to be able to prepare yourself in case of any market or niche that you maybe currently have. If it were to dry up, right? We all learned what happens if it's like, hey, I'm selling on TikTok, right? And I'm doing really well. And then TikTok just gets pulled out from underneath of us, right? And maybe hopefully it sticks around, but there still is the risk that it's going to be essentially banned here in the United States. So if you're selling only on TikTok and that's your market, that could cripple your business if you don't have a backup plan. So it's smart to keep that in mind. So those are kind of the top 4 goals of what we're going to be looking at here today. Maybe one of those really speaks out to you. And as we go through the rest of the content here in this podcast and the questions from decorators out there listening live, right? I want you to be able to take at least one snippet of information, one action item, maybe one thing that you're going to keep in mind that's going to lead to success. And then the 25, 30 minutes that we're here today in this podcast is 100% worth it. And you are more efficient, or you're bringing in more revenue, or you're more profitable, or your capabilities as an apparel decorator is expanded, right? So keep those in mind as we go through. So before I get into quality or what to look for, I want to briefly touch on the pros and cons of the different ways that anybody could utilize direct-to-film transfers. The only thing that you need, right, is a heat press, or in some cases, literally nothing at all, a computer, right? So let's chat a little bit about those, right? We're going to talk about the 3 ways. First, of course, is owning your own DTF printer and printing DTF transfers in-house. That's one way you could definitely utilize direct-to-film transfers. I am part of a lot of forums and Facebook groups with people who have DTF printers. I was just talking to the head of our research and development here in our Transfer Express facility about the ins and outs of DTF, right? So there's definitely a lot more than just hitting print, right? So we're going to touch on that here very, very quickly. Of course, we have a lot of longer tail education available on our Stalls TV YouTube channel, as well as our Transfer Express YouTube channel. So I urge you to go subscribe to those channels and check them out if you haven't already. But we'll do some primers here today. Second way of doing direct-to-film transfers, of course, is ordering custom transfers, which is one of the simplest and probably most profitable ways that you could, like today, right now, if you have a heat press in your facility, you could be offering direct-to-film transfers. And now I do say heat press, so if you're just joining us, brand new to apparel decorating, we are not using irons here, right? Time, temperature, pressure. And you need consistent time, temperature, and pressure to make quality results that you could hang your business's reputation on, right? Sure, crafting for a one-off shirt with an iron or even one of those quote-unquote heat presses, right? That essentially you have to put your body weight on it. That's not accurate pressure, right? And time, temperature, pressure, think of them like a tripod that's holding up a camera. Time, temperature, pressure are the legs. If you took one of them away, so we're going to take pressure away, the tripod does not stand. That's exactly how application is when we're talking about heat transfer products. You're not going to go get a box of cake mix and just go, yeah, I don't care how much cake mix goes in this, or, oh, much oil, I'm just going to eyeball it and expect it to turn out exactly like how the box intends. Now, I will say, I'm the first person to try to cut some corners because I can't find the measuring cup and eyeball it. And guess what? The cake didn't turn out right. But that was me eating the cake, right? It's not the reputation of your business. It's not, when you're building a business or maintaining a commercial print shop, you want to keep your customers happy. And that is absolutely paramount. It's easier to have customers keep coming back to you as repeat customers. You build a relationship with them. They don't even consider anybody else because you've provided value to suit their needs, right? But 9 times out of 10, if that transfer looks great, applied great, cool, because my pressure was off, right? Applies great, looks fine. And then your customer goes to launder it and it wrinkles up or starts peeling off, right? 9 times out of 10, they are not calling you up to say, hey, something's wrong here. They're probably just never going to order from you ever again, right? And that's terrifying for me as an apparel decorator and talking with a lot of apparel decorators. Not knowing why you lost a customer is one of the worst things because you could never fix it or never correct it, right? So we're going to be talking about professional quality results. I'm talking like you could match exactly what the big dogs are doing with direct to film with a quality heat press, right? So quality application is definitely going to be paramount, but we'll talk into that a little bit more in depth in a minute. And then, of course, the third way that you could utilize direct to film is outsourcing all of it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to sell. I was recently at the PPAI Expo out in Las Vegas back in January. And a lot of decorators, or let's call them distributors now at this point, in the promotional product space, don't actually decorate anything. They have a network of decorators they could send things to. Of course, here at Stalls, we have the Fill Engine, right? Which allows you the ability to just go out and sell. If you are great at selling, do what you do best, right? And then use the decorator network that is a trusted, vetted network of 10 decorators coast to coast across the United States, from Seattle to Charlotte, North Carolina, right? That are able to provide essentially printing solutions drop shipped to your customers. So you don't have to order anything. It handles everything from ordering blanks to ordering transfers to shipping to your customer, right? So you don't have to do really anything other than set up an online store. So that's going to be the third way that we could harness direct to film. So there's 3 ways there in direct to film. Let's break down the pros and cons of our first way real quick here. And that is printing in-house. Okay. Well, I hear so many decorators and those forums and Facebook groups I'm a part of, everybody thinks, oh, to get the quality of direct to film, I need it now. I need to bring these market advantages in, and I need to fast turn, and I want control of the quality, right? And I need to turn same day, right? The average turn time in the apparel decorating business is 5 to 10 business days. The average turnaround time for on-demand orders, we're talking single pieces, is about 3 to 5 days, regardless of where you go to. Of course, Amazon has ruined it for so many people of like, well, it ships same day. It arrives to you in 2 hours in some markets, right? Or usually it's like next day with Prime. And while direct to film definitely does help get it quicker, you could be losing a lot of money rushing to do a job right there, right? Do you stock apparel? Is that space now that is a whole bunch of stocked apparel in your facility? So there's a lot more to talk into it rather than just quick turn speed. And even that 3 to 5 days is definitely doable in any way that you're doing direct film, whether you're ordering custom transfers, whether you're printing in-house, or whether you're outsourcing everything, right? The quick turn with owning a printer in-house is great because you could do same-day turn, but it's very, very rare, and that's a large risk to take just for being quick turn. Now, of course, with a DTF transfer printer in-house, you do have quality control, right? So you could ensure that you are printing the highest quality transfers on the planet. Just let's put an asterisk with that, because when quality falters, when there's clogs or there's banding or there's, issues with your prints, the adhesive's not spreading correctly, it's not curing, it's now your problem. So if you're really good at selling or really good at printing apparel, now this is your problem. So we see a lot of facilities really struggle with direct-to-film. And if you're thinking about buying a direct-to-film printer and you're worried about these quality issues or the maintenance issues that are required, just go join a forum or a Facebook group. And I feel really bad because I want to help decorators out, right? But ones who have made investments into $25,000, $30,000 printers, not knowing what they're getting themselves into, and realistically having like a paperweight as they wait on supplies, or hair-pulling frustration of being able to get it right. If that printer is not printing properly, you are not profiting, right? And then you're going out and buying custom transfers anyway. So it's kind of a cautionary tale for a lot of decorators. Right now, some larger commercial print shops that I've been in, US Colorworks had some DTF printers of their own. I was recently out in Corvallis, Oregon at Corvallis Custom, right, where they had their own DTF printer. But if you go watch that episode on Stalls TV with Corvallis Custom, you'll see that they had their own issues, right? Getting it up and running. And they had to build out a room to be climate controlled because they were dealing with quality issues, which like the person who sold them the printer never told them, right? You need a climate controlled environment. And climate isn't just temperature, it's temperature and relative humidity in the room. So you need a humidifier or a dehumidifier and all of the monitoring supplies in there. And also exhaust. You need to get those fumes out there, right? We are essentially taking glue, adhesive, right, that's in a powder form, and curing it so that it floods the back of the transfer. You need to get those fumes out of your building. The same with if screen printers, right? Screen printers that are operating commercial dryers, the conveyor dryers. You can't just be pumping those plastisol ink fumes right into your facility. You need to get them out. So there's a lot more that goes to it, and a lot of home businesses have really got stuck in a big, deep hole with especially this like first or second generation of direct-to-film printers. I've been to all of the Impressions Expos, the Printing United Expos over the past 4 years, and it feels like some of those printers are only there one show, maybe 2 shows, and then all of a sudden, bam, right back to it's right back to a new model. So like if you're going to make an investment into a $30,000, $40,000 DTF printer, you want to make sure it's going to be supported long afterward, right? So that's the problem. So you do have control of printing and color profiles and everything like that. But if you're not an expert with RIP software, right, you're now learning an entirely new beast, right? I got into 3D printing a couple years ago, right? And I thought it was the coolest thing, but most of my time spent 3D printing was fixing the 3D printer so it printed properly. And that's very similar to the stories that I hear of almost everybody running direct-to-film printers. If you're going to buy one, you might as well buy 2 because one's going to break, right? And you also need almost a full-time maintenance technician. If you're not running direct-to-film every single day, if that printer is not running 8+ hours a day, it will clog every single time you turn it on. So instead of just turning it on to print, now you are doing cleaning cycles, you're wasting ink, you're cleaning out print heads, you're removing it, and it's 5 o'clock at the end of the day by the time you even get around to producing prints, right? So, of course, the cons are the initial expense. They are to get a high quality direct-to-film transfer, and everything like we talked about with reputation starts with quality. You might be able to save a couple cents up front on a transfer by going to whoever has the cheapest transfers, right? But is that actually attributing to success for your brand? Sure, it might be giving you a couple more bucks up front, but that bad quality is going to lead to wrinkling or banding in the prints. And is your customer going to be satisfied with that? Probably not, right? So in the long run, spending the extra cent per square inch on the transfer probably is going to be able to get you a little bit better materials, right? So of course we have the expense of a printer when we're talking about in-house, but then the expense of the supplies, the inks, what a lot of people don't talk about or even factor in, and I've talked to real decorators who went, oh, I never considered that, right? Conveyor dryers require usually 220 volts of electricity at a fairly high amperage. So it is an electrical draw. And with energy expenses more expensive than ever, that's a hidden cost, a hidden overhead that's going to really eat into those profits when you're, especially if you're just trying to sell transfers too. You're not factoring that overhead, that power consumption in, and that bites you at the end of the day, especially when you're racing to the bottom on price, which I would never recommend any decorator to do. Build value in your services for your customers, and your customers won't have any other reason to go anywhere else, right? If you're solving their problems and you're building value to the services you could provide to them, there is no race to the bottom now. Of course, there's always going to be those customers that are going, I want it for the cheapest price, right? NASA, Neil Armstrong's favorite quote or whatever, right? When he's about to launch to the moon, goes, well, it's kind of scary to think that NASA parted this out to quoted this entire rocket to the lowest bidder, right? So there's always going to be somebody looking for the cheapest. And that's a very, very slippery slope to get caught in. It's a lot easier to provide value and really listen to your customer, solve those solutions, make the upsells, or just tailor the solution specifically for them, whether it be, oh, you don't have design files, I could help you with that. Or local delivery. Oh, you have your event coming up in 2 days. I can make that turn time, right? Whatever the value may be, that's where you meet your customer for some success. And I would love to hear from you guys out in the audience as well of other ways that you build value in your services so price becomes less of a talking point in the conversation for your customers, so you can ensure that you're paying yourself, right? You're worth it. You're here because you're a business. You're not doing this out of charity, right? So when we keep talking about printing in-house, of course, it's a little bit better now, but supply chain is wildly inconsistent. And those inks, those adhesives that you're using that you're like, this is great, they're not available anymore, or the batch just suddenly changes. I know it's something that specifically here at Stalls and Transfer Express, we inventory a whole bunch of DTF printing supplies, of course, and have a full staff that go through to ensure the carriers have the right release agent on it. We have lab testing that tests the inks and the pigmentation to say, hey, this isn't the same ink of what we were buying. And the suppliers always go, hey, well, it's the same SKU or whatever it might be. But a lot of smaller decorators don't have the luxury of testing the supplies. It's loaded into the printer and let it rip. Or you have to buy such a big bulk assortment of inks and carriers and adhesives to prepare yourself for the future, that is also a huge financial risk then. So we see the risks kind of piling up on here, especially for many, many decorators, from big shops to small shops. There's one right down the street, a print shop that I actually used to work at, who goes, we utilize direct-to-film. It's great, right? A commercial screen printer, right? We use direct-to-film. It's great, right? We never want to touch a printer. Absolutely not. No, we don't want printers in-house. That's not something that we want to staff for. That's not something we want to invest in. We're able to get them at a price that we could easily profit off of. No, why would we ever do that, right? So you see large shops to small shops not taking on that financial risk of those investments or having an obsolete machine. Then the industry, the innovations it's so brand new. And so there's so many people pushing the industry forward with direct-to-film that it is what direct-to-film transfers are out now, or at least what the printers that are commercially available are leaps and bounds better than what they were just a year ago, right? And everybody's still trying to touch Ultracolor Max. And I will say that not only as a representative of Stalls, but as a user of DTF and having used a wide variety of DTF transfers, I've yet to find one better than Ultracolor Max from Stalls. Lightweight, single-step hot peel, efficient to use, right? So that's another thing, right? Maybe the printer you buy is only compatible with cold peel film, or the inks that got bundled with it are thick and heavy because the pigment density, like in the ink, is a lot of binder, so it needs more ink. So that's where you get that thick, crunchy, plasticky feel, right? Not all DTF is created equal, and a lot of the low quality stuff that you felt comes from those $1,000, $2,000 direct-to-film printers that are never, ever going to help somebody severely build a business with professional quality, right? When they're stacked up against a $45,000, DTF machine that you bought from the Impressions Expo, like absolutely no way, right? So then you also have to look at cutting, the maintenance of the print heads, the space it's going to take up in your house or your shop. Do you have that, right? Do you have to build out a room for it? All of that stuff you have to take into consideration, right? So moving on to ordering custom. Of course, I talked about our Ultracolor Max transfers. I love them, right? There is no investment up front. So we're just looking pros and cons here. No investment up front to any equipment, any machines, nothing to stock. You have essentially DTF at your fingertips when you need it, on demand, only when demand is generated. And that's great for a lot of people offering, say, like embroidery, right? Majority of your business is an embroidery business, but you do custom printed apparel on the side with screen print transfers or maybe HTV, right? Doing some specialty effects, those twill transfers. And now you want to be able to provide full color shirts, but you don't want to buy a direct to garment printer, right? That you're able to just easily order direct to film prints, very agile, and with that fixed cost. So you know exactly what your profit margin is going to be. Now, of course, when you order direct to film transfers from a reputable supplier like Stalls or Transfer Express, you have the highest quality on the market. It is essentially, you don't have to worry about it. You know, it's when you apply it correctly with a heat press, right? To those accurate application settings, you know that it's been independently tested. It's been vetted. I know our Ultracolor Max is certified by Nike. It's CPSIA compliant for being around children, right? And OCOTEX certified. So you know that it's passed all of these certifications. It's safe to be around. It's safe for your customers to wear, even the babies, right? So you don't know what's in some of those supplies, especially if somebody's selling you the cheapest direct film transfer. They're probably using the cheapest supplies possible, which may not be the most safe to even be pressing, right? So that's why, everybody, it seems like you could go anywhere and get DTF. Every street corner is selling direct to film transfers these days. But make sure you're using a reputable vendor that is out for your success, right? Not just trying to sell you a custom transfer. That's just my word of caution here. So, of course, you do have quick production when you outsource, depending on, I guess, who you go to. Turn times vary to same day turnaround to 3 to 5 days, right? So one thing is, if you're looking for a vendor, look for one that ships same day. Or if you miss production cutoff, it's always next day, right? I see a lot of people out there being like, we ship same day. And then when you go to actually order same day, I've been there, it's like $75 to jump the line. Like, okay, that's not profitable, right? I need this quick. There are many DTF transfer suppliers out there, Stalls and Transfer Express, that ship same day, right? No cost. So you also have the ability to have cut apart, right? With Stalls, the easy rip, where you don't have to cut. You could just rip them apart, right? So you get some of those perks, those time savings. So maybe, you're spending an extra cent or two per square inch of transfer. What's your time worth to sit there and cut them out? Or what's your employees' time worth to sit there and cut all these transfers out, right? So you definitely need to take some of that into consideration, right? And of course, I mentioned you don't have to inventory anything too. So there are cons, of course, to ordering custom transfers. Shipping costs to a certain extent you do have to pay for, right? If you're bundling a whole bunch of orders together, grouping them together, absorbing the profit margin, you pass that on to the customer, and it's not really anything. But when you have like those one-offs, that's where it could hurt not being local to be able to go pick it up, right? I like the luxury of being here in the building and being able to pick it up, but not everybody has the luxury of being able to pick it up, right? So that's where maybe your turn time has to get pushed out a little bit. You batch orders together, and that's where you really save. And when you hit over that certain threshold, especially at Stalls, you get easy rip for free. So that's fantastic, right? So I believe right now that's a $300 limit for DTF. So if you have 10 jobs going in, boom, right there. That's free. Just group them together. Now the cons are, there is a fixed cost, right? And it's kind of out of your hands, right? So that's one thing to look at, but I look at that as a con and a pro, right? Because with a fixed cost, you know exactly what the cost is to you, even including taxes or shipping. If you don't have a tax ID, right? You know, right, immediately what that cost is. So you know that you could charge what you have to charge to be able to profit from that. So very, very important. Now let's move on to outsourcing everything, because I see that we're already at 30 minutes in and a lot to talk about here. And I see some great interaction here in the chat, right? So, and we're going to get to that in a second, but I do want to talk about outsourcing, right? So when we talk about the pros and cons of outsourcing everything, right? Focus on what you do best. There is no labor. There is no equipment. You don't even need to own a heat press, although I have seen a lot of distributors actually purchasing heat press recently to bring some decoration in-house, because when you outsource everything, you're outsourcing a good portion of those profits as well. So you need a lot more volume. And talking to a lot of decorators, that becomes a slow rolling ball, right? Once the ball is rolling, man, that it's rolling. But nobody tells you that that ball is actually a huge stone that you have to push up the hill so it gets rolling, right? So there's a lot of work you have to do on the back end to build that volume. But if it's a side hustle and you just want to sell on the side, you don't have time to decorate anything, utilizing a service like Fulfill Engine, being able to order in there, have great rates, and still be able to make a fairly healthy profit margin while just maintaining essentially the online store or custom quoting for your customers, right? No labor, no equipment, no investments, no maintenance to deal with at all. And all you need is a computer. But of course, you have the reduced profits, variable turn times, especially as peak seasons hit, and quality checks, right? So you don't actually see the quality until it gets drop shipped to your customers. So you're not able to say, hey, okay, I'm down on this. But that's why having a network that is trusted and vetted and built for decorators just like you, instead of going to the big online companies where anybody could do print on demand and it literally ships to the lowest bidder. I don't know if I've seen a lot of people super happy with some of those companies that are, this is the cheapest way to start online stores, and you'll find horror stories in there as well, right? So definitely you look at those fixed costs too. So just like ordering custom transfers, you do have fixed costs, so you could easily set your profit margin and even profit share with your customers for fundraisers or corporate stores or whatever it may be. But of course, then there's also a shipping cost in there as well. But I will say you could easily add a markup percentage to that as well, so that you could even profit on the shipping then too. So the three ways that you could utilize direct to film in here. I do want to go to the chat here. Ronette says Ultra Color Max is awesome right here. So thank you, Ronette. Yeah, I also believe it is some of the best, if not the best, direct to film transfer that I have ever utilized. Right. So absolutely love that direct to film. And then here is German, right? Let's go. This is echoing exactly what I say about buying a lot of printers, right? So had the GPX or the Brother GTX Pro, losing ink every day that is not used, plus super expensive parts to keep it running. And that's German, you're not just you're not alone in that. There are a lot of decorators in that same boat, right? So let's see. And this is a great question, right? Carolyn says, just came on the best transfer paper. I want to do it on my own. Why? What value do you want to pull out of that? What success, what goal is that going to achieve for you? Is it the turn time? Is it the costs, right? Because kind of like we talked about doing it in-house, the costs could be, they could possibly outweigh the benefits of it. In there. And do you have time to spend time maintaining these machines essentially and stocking the supplies for them? Or, it's the allure of just being able to do, I just want to do one right now and print, because if you're doing that one every couple of days, it's not necessarily it's going to be a little bit harder than it is. Just a cautionary tale there, John here says, but so yeah, Carolyn, if you're still listening to us, I'd love to hear why you want to bring it in house, because of course this is a conversation, right? And I want you to succeed. And yes, there's certain scenarios where absolutely, right, bring it in house, but I find for a lot of decorators, they set themselves into too big of a hole up front, and it severely impacts their success. So John says, would love to learn more about POD services and what are the costs to start up a store with stalls. So it does vary based on if you're just going to be a distributor. You could get into Fulfill Engine as low as a one-time fee of $500, right? Or you could get our premium solution, which is a $1,000 one-time fee to get access to the software, and then unlimited online stores. You could produce, you could have everything direct shipped to you so that you could still decorate, but then you expand your capabilities. Say I have a heat press, you have a heat press, right? You could have all of your heat press orders come to you, But then if you want to take advantage of engraving or embroidery, right, you could leverage this decorator network of those 10 decorators across the entire country that are trusted and vetted for quality. Not everybody is on that list. And I know decorators have been removed from that list because they need to maintain the quality. And every single one of them, especially when we talk about direct to film, every single one of them is using Ultracolor Max direct to film transfers. So say you're using Ultracolor Max, you're using DTF in-house, and then you just want to go on a vacation, but you don't want to tell your customers no. You still want to be selling. One checkbox you click and it starts sending everything out to the network with the same quality that you decorate with in your business. So go over to stalls.com, search Fulfill Engine, and request a demo. The team there would love to walk you through the entire they want to learn about your business first, right? That's the first step to ensuring that you're going to have success with any on-demand solution. So they're going to listen to you, ask some questions about your business, and then they'll look at Fulfill Engine and show you the specific features that may be a benefit to you. So it is absolutely free. It takes about 25, 30 minutes, less time than we've been together here today on the podcast. But they're able to really help you out with that stuff. So great question there, John. Carolyn Harvey is looking to get your own heat press to do it in-house, right? So yeah, absolutely. Heat press, one piece of equipment, regardless of how you're decorating apparel, whether you're doing embroidery, right? It's nice to have them around. If you're doing direct to garment, right? It's nice to have it around. And of course, heat transfers really unlocks it. So you came to the right place for heat transfers and heat presses, right? Hotronics heat presses are quite possibly the best in the industry, manufactured in the United States with an industry-leading warranty, if you ever even have to use it. But real folks to pick up the phone to help you out, and accurate time, temperature, and pressure, which something that I will be completely honest and say that I have used at home a non-Hotronics heat press, and it is my least favorite thing to do. Sure, it might apply a shirt. I've never had as good of results as when I use a Hotronics, and there's no threadability. The pressure is always off. So like a little bit more higher pressure transfers, like screen print transfers from Transfer Express, right? You absolutely can't print those on that. It just doesn't get high enough pressure. It pinches in the back, so sometimes the transfer moves when I'm closing the press. It's more frustration than it's worth, right? For the low cost of it. So I wish I would have never picked one up, right? Doug says he signed up but hasn't onboarded yet. So that's one thing with Fulfill Engine. It's incredibly easy to onboard. There are onboarding. So they'll even walk you through that entire process with the Fulfill Engine team. And I didn't mean for this to go there. We're supposed to be talking about direct to film here, but I want to help you guys out, right? So the Fulfill Engine team walks you through everything. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But I will say, if you have the login information, right when you sign into Fulfill Engine for the first time, there's a list that shows up right on the first screen. And it's a step-by-step guide to get everything connected. So whether you're going to connect your Sanmar account, right? It tells you exactly where to go on sanmar.com in your account to grab the right API keys to put them over. It tells you to set up your payments and your Fulfill Engine. It walks you through everything. So you don't necessarily need, if you have questions, absolutely engage that Fulfill Engine team. That's what they're there for. But I found it fairly easy to go through that entire onboarding process. Once, as long as you have your Sanmar account information handy, a Stripe account, a Ship Engine account, or whatever it may be, to be able to hook everything up together so the systems talk to each other. And it does give you that ability to be automated, right? So yeah, definitely. So let's round out and wrap some things up here. Just a few things to look for when we talk about DTF success, right? Quality transfers is absolutely number one, like we mentioned right at the front end of this podcast. Efficient production is also another huge aspect of it. Just like I was saying, like not being able to thread on a garment onto my own heat press, right? Like if I have to slow down and, oh man, that doesn't look like it applied right, I want to apply it twice. There are a lot of direct to film transfers on the market now that are a double step application that you absolutely need to, number one, wait for it to cool down completely. So that means taking it off of the heat press, peeling the transfer, putting it back onto the heat press, covering and repressing again for the same exact amount of time. Like, cool. You're saving 1 cent, 2 cents, maybe 20 cents total, $1.50 over the course of the run, but you're doing double the amount of work. That surely your labor cost that you're not factoring into your overhead is making you less profitable with a lower quantity or a lower quality transfer, right? A lower quality finished product that you're going to deliver to your customer, that you got to do double the amount of work for. So that's why I love a hot peel, low temperature, single step application. There are direct film transfers on the market that you absolutely need to look for that, right? Because that's another thing that decorators don't really factor in that time. I've been in shops that like have to like peek to make sure that the transfer isn't lifting up when you're opening the transfer, because it's a cold peel. So if the carrier's still hot and the inks are still hot, it pulls the transfer up, and you're possibly ruining a shirt because then the transfer folds over on itself. The inks are still hot. It gets all weird and wiggly, and that's not going to be a durable, long-lasting result, right? So having a hot peel transfer, if that press pops up and pulls the carrier with it, cool. You just did my work for me, right? So it just makes it super efficient to be able to do those, right? So of course, quick turnaround, a benefit of direct to film being a digital product and being able to be ordered in any quantity. But you need to make sure that your customers are happy. That's going to be the number one thing for success here. So just to round us out, some things to look for in DTF in terms of quality, right? If you see any banding in the prints, I'm talking like the inkjet printer that's been on your desk for 10 years and it's running out of ink and it's leaving a whole bunch of lines in the prints, right? Not cool. Nobody wants to wear a t-shirt with that, right? Even if it's just a promo, one-time throwaway shirt. And I see so many, I was just scrolling on Facebook on one of those DTF groups, and someone's like, "Hey, like my quality's great and it's the cheapest on the market." And there's just very clearly these stripes in the solid colors and in the gradients, and it's like, well, that's why it's the cheapest, right? Like, do you not see those banding in the prints? Like, I know I'm picky. I'm a designer at heart, right? But I've been in the apparel decorating industry for 15 years, but like, I know that like it looks like a printer is running out of ink. It doesn't look high quality, right? We're trying to make it look like it's a direct to garment print or a screen print, right? We want those solid opaque colors. We don't want any grain or stippling in the inks, right? So like we want nice, smooth, solid colors, the photographic reproductions without like it looking like it's an old film photograph with a whole bunch of grain in it. We don't want that, right? The technology is available and it's optimized to be nice and smooth and clear spot colors, right? So look for that. Also, if you see any white outlines around your prints, that is usually somebody who is brand new to direct-to-film printing or somebody running direct-to-film printers on the absolute lowest setting. Sure, out of registration happens, but large shops with dedicated teams and quality control catch it before it ever reaches you, right? There is one vendor I will remain positive and not knock anybody directly. Every single print I've ever ordered from them has a white halo around the artwork. Cool. I 99% of the time print on black t-shirts. So like when that white or that blue lettering has a white crisp outline on it, like, man, not cool. Doesn't look good. Oily prints are another thing, right? With a lot of glycol in the inks. That's the cheap stuff, right? That's like the lowest quality inks that you could get. And you see this glycol or this oil that kind of like permeates through the inks and sits on top, and you have to wipe it down and it looks like the print's sweating, right? Like that's stuff we want to avoid. We want those prints to look nice and matte, or like that nice satin finish that just sits on the garment, right? You don't want that stuff there. So, definitely faded colors. We see that often a lot too. And that's just the white underbase showing through those CMYK inks and it not set up properly, right? So those are definitely all things to look for. The one thing I told you, I was just talking down to our research and development guy, Mike here. And we were talking about wrinkling on direct to film prints and what causes it, right? I know a lot of people blame, it's cotton garments wrinkle, right? It's actually the adhesive layer being properly baked into the back of the transfer or improper application, right? So when you don't have the right time, temperature, and pressure, that's the first thing to look at of why your print's wrinkled on the first, second, third, fourth wash, right? And then the next thing is to look at the back of the transfer. Like if there are dimples so deep in that adhesive that it goes straight to the inks, well, guess what? When you wash that shirt, that's water then coming in behind the print and separating it from the fabric of the shirt. It's coming in from the edges, right? So you want to ensure that the company you're working with is using the best quality adhesives and has the best machinery. When people try to do space-saving designs and here's the dryer that takes up no space, so you could buy this printer and put it in your closet at home, whatever, whatever sales pitch they're giving you, it's probably not giving you the best adhesion of inks along the entire back consistent layer of that DTF transfer. So, of course, when you introduce water, moisture, or heat in a washing cycle, right, you're going to start to have wrinkling. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, and you want to absolutely avoid, right? So it does come down to proper application on that, which was the main thing. Of course, quality in, quality out with any printing method. Definitely want to ensure that DTF is going to be able to do that for you. So I'm going to go through the questions here real quick just to make sure that I didn't miss anything here for our folks joining us live. But I think that's going to wrap us up for at least the majority of the DTF success tips that we wanted to cover here today. We didn't get a chance too much to dive into artwork prep, but here on a podcast format where I'm talking with you, it's a little hard to talk through exactly what to do. There's some great tutorials we have over on our Transfer Express YouTube channel, and there's some really exciting developments coming very, very soon that are going to help automate some artwork prep for you. So I'm excited to show you guys that. Let's see. Lulu says, sorry, the Wi-Fi is bad, but what's a tip for somebody trying to start a business? Build demand. Go find your customers. Start with your friends. Start with your family. Start with your own interests, your hobbies, right? Start with that. Really super simple to start. You'll find opportunities for custom printed apparel. Tell people you do it before you make any huge, large investments, right? Start selling. Start selling. Go buy a heat press for $1,000. That's going to be more than good quality to get started with. I usually caution anything under that $400 or $500 range is really going to be more hassle than it's worth. And when you're diagnosing print issues, when you're just getting started, it's really frustrating to have that variable of like not knowing your heat press is set to exactly what you set it to, right? When we talk about the right time, temperature, or pressure. So like the $100 Amazon specials, I was just playing with one the other week. It's 100 degrees less temperature than what it was set at. So yeah, you're never getting proper application with that, right? So go build demand, go build customers, and start selling. Going to be the best way. Start small, right? Start with your own interest. You're a part of a book club. Let's do some tote bags, right? Your friend group goes to national parks. Let's start a little checkbox of all the national parks we've gone to. See, you have all of these ideas that you could start small. Direct to film transfers, screen print transfers, heat transfers allow you to have that ability, right? Set up an Etsy store, right? Just with your own designs that you feel like you would wear. Design t-shirts for yourself. And if you design t-shirts for yourself that you would wear every single day, odds are there's probably some other people out there on the internet. Start a Facebook page, right? So there's one more than just one tip to start your business. T. Lamont says, "What's up, people?" I say, "What's up?" Thanks for joining us, T. Lamont. Let's see. This is a great one. Yeah, German says, most of my possible customers want everything basically free. I did stop dealing with them, even if I've had to cut customers. And that's the thing that I will say that was one of the hardest things that I ever had to deal with, especially when I was doing like design work for bands and my buddies and stuff, is like, sometimes you do have to say no, right? Like people are going to demand stuff that it's just like, I was just talking to my buddy the other day and it's like, hey, he wants me to do album art for his little solo project. He's just putting stuff up on Spotify. And it's like, I would love to help you out, but I can't, I can't, man. Like my time, I spend a lot of time dedicated to finding solutions for decorators like you here at Stalls and Transfer Express. And then I like spending a lot of time with my family. Right. So it's like, it's not worth it for me to sacrifice that. Right. Like not right now for free. No, can't do it. Right. So definitely it. Right. So, so Joe says, please also speak to having a DTF in-house is that you could test samples of color profiles for customers' designs. Yes, you absolutely can. And testing supplies is now wasting your inks and materials, right? Like now, granted, you're dialing in color samples, but you could have somebody like our business development department here at Transfer Express run through color profiles and target things for you while you could be out selling, you could be out designing, you could be out setting up online stores and not having to worry about the ins and outs of that, right? For a lot of smaller decorators, color theory. I've been a graphic designer my entire adult life, right? I'm going on probably 25 years of being a graphic designer, and color theory and color profiles and the ins and outs of what you could replicate with, with essentially DTF printers now these days, because they could convert much more of that RGB gamut into printing with CMYK inks, or you have an expanded gamut because you're using the light cyan, light magenta, light yellow, right? And like you're essentially a scientist. If you are into that, man, I applaud you. That goes a little bit deeper than the basic color understanding that I've got right here. John, is the YouTube recap of this? This will be on YouTube, of course, on our Stalls TV YouTube channel, and available on the replay that you could go scrub through immediately after I hit the end button here today. Let's see. Doug says, is the network printers using the same? This is a great question, Doug. As we talk about Fulfill Engine and the network, are the network printers using the same equipment that they are at Transfer Express, using the same printers as Transfer Express or Stalls? So yes and no. So the network printers are actually shipped Ultra Color Max transfers that are produced by Stalls to produce your order. So on the same day turnaround, let's say those batches close for each decorator every morning. So the apparel's ordered from Sanmar or Lane 7 or whatever distributors they have connected to them, wherever they're getting the apparel from. It's automatically ordered, so no manual entry. And then it automatically sends the artwork to Stalls to be produced and then shipped right to the decorator, right? So it is Ultra Color Max at every single facility on the Fulfill Engine network that's going to be producing that same transfer. So nobody there is, while some of them might have DTF transfers printers in house, we can't trust that quality, right? Because there's too many variables at play. And if you're used to getting from one facility, the Ultra Color Max smooth, soft, pliable, and then it has to route to a different decorator on the network, and then it's thick and crunchy. Not cool. That's against the integrity of the entire network and detrimental to success for decorators or distributors just like you. So it is the same, right? This is a great one. German, how could you do DTF reflective? Do you guys do that like the security word? So there aren't really no great specialty DTF effects yet. I've seen dye blockers, right, with the black adhesives. A lot of times the black adhesives really aren't the carbon-based dye blocking adhesives or powder that's used on that. So dye migration still happens on sublimated material. I've seen some neons that are like neon-y ink that look cool, but again, take up a well of ink on the printer. So they are like a dedicated spot color ink, and they're still inkjet. So it's not necessarily as good as say a screen printer transfer in neon ink, but reflective or glitter or anything like that. A lot of the time it's the carrier. And any of those carriers I've seen, they're like max rated to like 10 or 15 washes, which like for me, if I'm selling a t-shirt, I'm not doing, no, absolutely not. 10 or 15 washes, not worth it, right? I'd rather go with a glitter or shimmer HTV, right? Or a reflective HTV. So now you could cut anything. And I will say, a plotter cutter to cut heat transfer vinyl is much cheaper than a direct to film printer that is limited to just full color artwork. So that's where like we really see HTV still holding its own in the marketplace here. So definitely one thing in there. Great questions, great interaction here. And so yeah, just wanna say thank you to everybody here looking in here. So let's see. German says on the Atlantic City Expo. So he's referring to the Impressions Expo in Atlantic City coming up in just a couple weeks. Just a couple weeks coming up. Oh, you guys have a Hatronics heat press package. I got one from you guys last year and love it. So So I don't want to get in any trouble, but yes, there's always show specials. And I'm sure the 360 IQ. Actually, if you're listening with us live on the replay, it goes till the end of March. But if you're listening to us live right now, there is actually a special going on with the 360 IQ cap press. I know we were talking about DTF, and yes, I've done tons of DTF on Hey, I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I don't know what just happened. My computer said it's time. So if you guys could still hear me here, I'm trying to figure out how I could get my video back. I don't know if my audio is back yet. I know it was looking for, I was looking for something. Yeah, technical difficulties. We're sorry, everybody who was hanging out. We'll wrap this one up here in just a minute. I lost video and audio there for a second. Maybe you could still hear me. Maybe we're going to finish it up here. Maybe not. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Hey, I think we're back. I don't know if my dock that had everything hooked up to it just broke. So, hey, we're back. Give me a thumbs up if we're all all good here. I was talking about the 360 promo. So our 360 promo that we have right now is actually $360 of credit for patches and emblems. And I know we're all supposed to be talking about direct-to-film here, but patches and emblems are a great way. And just asking that question in there about the Impressions Expo coming up in Atlantic City, that you could get $360 of patches and emblem credit. They come in 3 individual $120 credits. So you get to use it 3 times. And so you get this really, really great availability to do any quantity of custom patches and emblems, especially now that the minimums are down to 12. So a huge benefit here for everything. So yeah, talked about the 360 promo, and then I got shut down by the IT. So awesome. We got some friends back here with us here today. I want to just make sure I didn't miss anything here. So Chris, great question here, Chris. When we talk about fulfillment services, haven't looked yet. Is there a video explanation or a walkthrough for the fulfillment service? There absolutely is. Go over to Stalls TV and just type in Fulfill Engine. Or if you go to fulfillengine.com, there's a video on the bottom of the page. Or if you go over to stalls.com and just search Fulfill Engine, you'll see a video on that page too. And it kind of breaks it down almost like the Domino's pizza tracker, whether you are producing everything in-house yourself or outsourcing it all to the network. There's tons of videos that are built to help you out. I think there's even an entire playlist over on Stalls TV. And Chris also asked, who is the fulfillment service aimed at? I'm a small batch producer that does small runs of mostly Ultra Color Max. Would that benefit me? It absolutely could. You could continue to do that, but now you don't have to manually order everything. So if you're running online stores or doing those small batch quotes, it could automatically batch them and order them for you. And then if you're ordering your apparel too, it connects to Sanmar, SNS, Alpha Broder, Lane 7, AS Color, a whole bunch of distributors out there, so that you don't actually have to go and manually order the apparel ever again, right? You could build a quote, and as you're building the quote, it's adding that apparel to your cart. And then once you say, yes, let's go ahead and check out, it just adds it to the batch. So the next day at whatever threshold, if it's that $200 for free shipping, if it's, I don't care if I have to pay for shipping, I need it today, you could set it to however you want. So Chris, I would say book a demo and you'll see the back end, all of the features. You'll see expanded capabilities if you want to offer engraving, embroidery, even direct to garment. So, and now UV DTF is available through that as well. So you kind of could expand your capabilities and be able to sell more and just outsource what you want whenever you want, right? So it is really, really great for the simplicity of just being able to pull that in. So excellent. I don't see any other questions in there. Humberto says, just got my Hotronics in yesterday, 360. They are absolutely phenomenal. This is a great question from Humberto as well. What should I charge for a Port Authority C115 cap with a PVC patch? I would take all of the entire cost. There's a lot that we could get into here, right? So I would make sure take all of your costs, everything, including even shipping, right? Put that in there, divided by the total quantity, and that also depends on if it's going to be a wholesale order or you're selling retail, right? And also the size of the PVC patch and the cost there. Headwear gets a little bit more difficult to price because sometimes the prices could already be a little high. But customers who are serious about purchasing headwear understand that custom headwear is a great profit opportunity for decorators. My rule that I always try to adhere by, at least for like t-shirts and stuff, is take the costs and then just multiply it by 2. If you don't have accurate overhead costing calculations for yourself, definitely one way to do that right there. So I think we're all set. I really want to thank you guys for hanging out with me here today on the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Of course, all of the education that we have here at Stalls, from the podcast to our YouTube channels, to our community groups. If you go to, you could look us up online on Facebook, and we have our Heat Press for Profit group, which you may be listening to. You may be on right now. It's a community of decorators just like you. And we also have our Easy Prints Decorators group, specifically for like goof-proof transfers, any of those transfer express transfers. There's several posts a day, probably in the 10s of 20s of posts a day of decorators with questions or just that stuff, right? If you go ask that same question, what should I charge for this Port Authority C115 cap? Tell them the quantity, tell them the decoration, tell them the cost of the patch, and you're going to get help from real decorators who have been doing this, for years. Some folks in there have been decorating for 25, 30 years, and it's a wealth of knowledge. I love the community here of people being able to help each other out. So I do always, with these podcasts, we want to inspire, help educate you, and at the end of the day, help you reach your goals as a confident apparel decorator, right? Regardless of how you're decorating apparel, whether it be DTF, whether it be screen print transfers, whether it be real screen printing, right? Stalls is here to support you along the way, and we're always happy to help. So until next time, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Of course, we are live every single week, Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here across Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram, and there's probably some place I'm forgetting, and available the following week on every single place that you could find podcasts or listen to podcasts. So until next time, I'm Dave. Go out and crush it, guys. 2025 is your year. Happy pressing.